Very well, Council. We resume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
And Honorable Commissioner. Mr. Ba, you were telling us about the first visit to Greece. Was there a report written when you returned?
There was a back to office report.
Do you have a copy?
I have a copy, but it's not signed because it was accompanied by a minute in a file, but it was extracted. And I have also some photos of the vessel that were taken.
All right.
That I probably want to send it to you.
Right. Tell us put together the documents you want this commission to look at in relation to your testimony.
That was the travel clearance and a report on trip to Greece and some photos of the vessel that were taken, the inside and the outside.
You put it together. Can I have those documents, please? I'll show you exhibit SC42. It's a bundle of documents that have been admitted in relation to this matter. I'm going to give you back these pictures that you have produced, and kindly tell us what these pictures are. You have 1, 2, and then you have copies of pictures. Describe for the record what these are. Yes. Please make sure there are no duplicates as well.
They are not duplicates, and I believe it's...
Yes. Yeah, tell us what they are.
One is...
Put them in order. Put
them
in the order.
Jamdu, and the other one is...
yeah, put them in the order you want to have them admitted, and describe them so that we know what they are.
One is, I don't know which one is Kansala, which one is Al Jamdu, but These are the two different ferries.
Two different ferries, okay.
Yes. One
Alright.
is supposed to be Al Jamlu, one is supposed to be Kansal.
Okay, could you stand by him and take them in the order in which he describes them? So we'll staple them.
It shows the inside, the capacity, the ferries entering, and others also the seating arrangements.
Okay.
This one. This is one set for one ferry, and the other is another set for another ferry.
Wait. Yes, what are the other pictures?
And these are the propeller underneath for the ferry that was on a dry dock.
For the ferry that was in dry dock?
Yes.
Okay. Have you looked at those documents?
Have I?
Exhibit 42, SC 42.
Yes.
Tell us which of those exhibits that you recognize and you have anything to say about any of them.
There was one that I wrote, SC42, I think they are all SC42. But this is one that I wrote as Secretary General, or addressed to the Managing Director of Gambia Ports Authority.
What is the date?
17th February 2011.
All right, when you finish. Yeah.
There is also the minutes of the continuation meeting on the meeting of shareholders and the transfer of shares, Galia Holdings Limited, held at the office of the Secretary General on February 28th. The others I cannot...
Yeah, do you have anything to say about those minutes? You were present in that meeting?
Yes. I was the chairperson. Okay. I chaired that meeting. And there were 10 others who attended.
Mr. Ba, I have your documents. I'll apply to tender them before you leave. I just want to ask you a question regarding that first visit. Obviously, that first visit was very important because it was after that visit that a nod was given, so to speak, that it was okay to purchase those ferries. Is that not so?
What, the one that I wrote?
Yeah, the one that you went to, the visit.
On
I'm not
the
talking about the
17th
letter.
of February?
No, you went to Greece only once, and you
Yes.
were telling this commission about that visit.
About that?
About the visit to Greece.
Uh-huh.
Are you with me? It was after that visit that the government approved or the president approved.
The restructuring?
No, the purchase of the ferries or the joint venture. It was after that visit that the president approved the joint venture. Is that correct?
Probably yes. We can say that's correct. After that visit,
right.
That he believed that we could go ahead.
The question of the suitability of the ferries, was it raised at any time?
The suitability of the ferries?
Yes. for the joint venture, for use in Gambian waters? Was it raised?
It was observed there that it was one-sided or one-ended, entrance, and that was raised. But there was this proposal of a floating terminal or a platform to be built for that.
So how was this resolved?
How
was it resolved?
I think a platform was built just by the was at the terminal, by the docking, the other side of the terminal.
So at that visit, it was resolved that a platform would be built. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that it was resolved then. I said that later on that was done. But I believe that was, there were options of this floating, platform, and also a concrete one that was to be built.
The question of the draft, that is the part of the vessel that would go underwater, was it an issue? Was it raised at that meeting?
It has always been an issue that dredging needed to be done.
That was it.
That dredging has to be done, so that we wouldn't have that problem that we're still encountering, and we have been encountering that before the purchase of these ferries. There was this, the belief that that has to be dredged, and that is why even the expansion of the port is a problem. We don't have many ships that dock there, only at 2 areas, because dredging has been a problem, and that was factored in that it had to be dredged, and at some point dredgers were brought in.
Did the Gambia Ports Authority, during the period when consideration was being given to the ferry, did they communicate in any way their opposition, for lack of a better word, to the acquisition of these ferries?
It was detected that that probably they knew that it came from the office of the president, and they had no choice or no option. But they wanted to deal with Damien Shipyard. Those are the ones that manufactured the Kanilai, ferries.
What do you mean by it was detected?
Through their actions or reluctance, sometimes.
So why did
proposals?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
In proposals to, I was believed that they were in for Damien Shipyard, but not the Greek partners.
And you were the Secretary General. Did you not think that was a weighty consideration?
Huh?
Wasn't that a weighty consideration?
Yes, they may have their point, but this was something that was a directive that we had to work, with, these partners, these Greek ones, and they want to deal with Damien Shipyard, and that was related, to, the former president, that, probably, they want, to continue to deal with, Damien Shipyard, probably because the existing ramp that was there, and, it would be feasible to continue with them. But this is what it was brought to them, and that they have to work with them. But that was detected that they wanted to work with Damien.
Mr. Jiba, Modlamin Jiba was the managing director of Gambia Ports Authority at the time. Did you deal with him in relation to this matter? You talked to him in relation to this project?
Yes, at the beginning, we told him about the project, And we sent the delegation to him, to his office, to talk to him.
He indicated, according to him, that he indicated that he wasn't in for the project.
He indicated that. I was not part of the meeting, but due to, certain things that you would see, when you interact with people or when you hear stuff, you know who is in for what and who is not in for what. And as I said, they were in for Damien Shipyard.
But what was your position? Did you advise the president one way or the other? What was your position?
We told them the position of GPA.
Did you have a position?
And he came out in public on TV and lambasted them. And he threatened, that MLGBA on TV.
What did he say as a matter of interest?
What? You
said he lambasted them. What did he say?
He said that he wouldn't allow anybody to, just derail this project. If they don't want, let them, go to hell. And that is what was going to happen.
Just one more question. In your own estimation, if you did consider it, why do you think this project failed?
As you can see in those photos, the capacity was there. It can solve a lot of our problems in terms of moving people and goods around. The only thing I believe is failed, lack of probably willingness or cooperation at the level of GPA. And that is what I believe, in terms of providing or working on the platform in time, and also, doing something about the fares, just not, dump it there like that. When we knew that there was unwillingness on their side, and that probably contributed to its failure. But they were okay, it was tested, and even the ramp, when it was built, there was a test ride, and what happened, that it broke over the tail, that the lander that lands at the platform, just went, inside, fell in the sea, and we just lost it.
That's the ramp, the ramp attached to the ferry?
Yes.
Fell off?
Yes, fell off, and they searched for it, and they couldn't find it. But how come it came off?
But the Greeks were in charge, were they not? The Greeks were in charge of the management of the ferries at the time.
The Greeks?
Were they not in charge of the management of the ferries at the time?
They were in charge with also our Gambian, counterparts.
But you are aware also that, you have indicated that there might have been reluctance. That's your view, certainly. But you are aware that a great amount of money was spent in building the ramps as well. The slipways, yes, they call them the slipways. Yeah. That is not an indication of unwillingness on the part of the Gambian partners.
That is not what?
It appears to me that that is not a sign of unwillingness to...
The period and the space of providing the funds, and the willingness to, to do so in time. So, and when they are, when there was a directive that do it, I think they had to do it. But you just cannot measure their willingness, in terms of their providing the funds for the slipway. Only, just because they provided it. But, the time that was being provided, and the time it took for that for those funds to be provided, and there were some challenges, some obstacles here and there.
Isn't it correct that the Greeks, like the Qatari project, the Greeks also were reluctant to pay up for the construction of the slipways? They did not pay up for the construction of the slipways. Instead, they tried to withdraw, renege from the joint venture.
I think when it stood there for long without operating, I think that's when they started being discouraged about it. But at some point, I was not at the office. But I understand that there were reasons for them, just because it was sitting there and not operating, and they believed they were losing money, they were losing investment opportunity. And
I see. Mr. Chairman, may I apply to have admitted pictures of what the witness says were the ferries to be, which became the Kansala and the Aljamdu, as well as travel clearance and a report on the trip, unsigned report on the trip. I believe it's, by the way, who prepared this report?
Mr. Yabu.
Mr.?
Mustafa Yabu, the permanent secretary too. There was a minute attached to it when he was forwarding it.
Unsigned minutes? These minutes would be in your file. It should be in your file.
It should be in the file.
Oh, sorry, not minutes, report, sorry.
We have this report headed Report on Trip to Greece. It is not signed, it is not dated.
Yes.
It's not on letterhead. If you want this report in, you have to sign it
As I said.
and vouch, just hold it.
Okay.
You have to sign it and vouch for the person who prepared it. Are you prepared to do that?
To sign it.
And vouch for the person who prepared it.
Yes, because the
Yes,
person,
all right.
the person
Send it
prepared
to. It's all right. She will send to you to sign.
If you could put prepared by, and you put his name,
Yeah.
and then you sign.
Yeah, no problem.
And
Date it today.
and date. Today's date. Yeah, okay. MS. Sorry.
What's the date? Today is 16. Today's date.
Please collect the bundle, Exhibit 42 bundle.
travel clearance to Greece dated 25th January 2011 from the Inspector General of Police to Njogu L. Ba, Mamburi Njai, Mustafa S. Yabo, Mustafa Bojang, Hali Gai, Keba Mane. Admitted mark MS 95A. Report on trip to Greece by the delegation that made the trip for the inspection of the two ferries, Kansala and Al Jamdu. Admitted mark MS 95B. Various alleged photos of ferries said by the witness Njogu Ba to have been inspected in Greece. Admitted marked in a bundle MS 95C. That's it.
There was just one. When you returned from the visit from Greece, did you report back to the president?
About the trip, yes.
Yes. What was his reaction?
It was okay, we can go ahead and engage them and continue the process.
Okay. There was a task force. Did you have anything to do with that task force?
I was asked, yes, I was asked to convene this task force, and letters were written inviting them in this task force.
Okay. What was the purpose of the task force?
It was for restructuring of the Gambia ferry services. As an autonomous institution.
Did you attend the inauguration of the ferries?
The inauguration of the ferries?
Yes.
Yes. Not as SG.
As Minister of
Works.
Works.
Yes.
Is it true that invitees had to jump into the ferry?
Jump in?
Yes.
No.
You walked into the ferry?
Yes, there was a way to get into the ferry.
What was that way?
It was there, sort of remember, it was somewhere that was not, it was not meant to be there. It was just, parked there because the slipway was not ready yet.
Okay.
So there were ladders or an entrance to, getting into, inside the ferry. Hmm. So if you are physical enough, you can just find your way in.
All for this witness.
Mr. Ba.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned willingness of cooperation on the part of the GPA. What's your understanding of autonomy? I heard you mention just now you were restructuring the Gambia ferry services into an autonomous unit. What's your idea of autonomy?
For them to have the leeway, to have the possibility to run, run the company, in their own terms, in their own ways.
Was that autonomy respected in your leading the delegation to get them ferries?
That autonomy
Was it
respected.
respected in your efforts to lead the sourcing of the ferries from Greece? Did you respect the GPA's autonomy in that exercise?
It was respected because they were invited and they were part of the delegation too.
Invitation is not autonomy.
No, I mean not invited. Actually, they participated.
Did they have a voice as leaders in making a decision whether this should be bought or not?
They had a voice, and that they should have. They had a voice to say or to indicate their position on it.
Did they express willingness to cooperate based on
those that went? Yes.
Those that went?
Yes, sir.
So those that went did not represent the interests of the GPA at large? Who in GPA resisted?
The management, like Mr. Jiba, ML Jiba.
So Hali Guy was not a representative of Mr. Jiba?
Halis was representing the ferries because it was to be separated, the ferry services and the GPA.
But Hali reported to Jiba, so Hali represented Jiba.
No, when this was done, Hali was to report to the office of the president.
Okay, they changed his reporting line.
Yes.
Okay, so now you believe the autonomy of the Port Authority was respected?
In terms of the
of
delegation
the sourcing,
that went?
No, in terms of sourcing ferries. Because the ultimate responsibility was with the managing director of GPA.
Yes, and they were given the leading role in that inspection and also their evaluation and their report. They were given the leading role, to say or to mention, indicate what they felt, about the trip and about the ferries.
So where was the need for a directive then?
Where was
the need for any directive? If they could say yes or no. In your testimony, you kept alluding to a directive, going to Greece, dealing with these investors. Where is room for this directive? If the GPA guys could say yes or no in exercise of their...
At the end of the day, we all know that when it comes to the president and his directives, it's supreme. It overrides their autonomy.
Okay. So in other words, the autonomy of the GPA didn't matter because the OP was a bigger institution and it will alienate any other institution.
I will agree.
You agree with that? Okay. So, Mr. Ba, you as SG, in executing a directive, do you not act in favor of somebody against your oath of office?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't believe
so. You find the directive constitutional?
I find the directive?
Constitutional. If you are not acting with fear, because you say we all know, meaning there was no choice but to execute because of consequences. Isn't there an element of fear there?
We all know. We all know that dealing with President Jammeh, there is always that, element of fear.
So you acted with fear? Even though your oath said you shouldn't act with fear or favor?
No, but that's a fact.
All right. But you continue to serve under the president on several occasions. You had appointments in and out. Why, Mr. Ba? Do you believe he represented the will of the people in referring investors to you, people with whom you had no choice but to agree, even if you know it leads to loss, an enormous loss to the people? Did he really represent the will of the Gambian people in getting you to negotiate bad deals? And why did you execute as SG with the full knowledge that in this case I have no choice?
In the case of the ferries, I believe that he was acting in the interest of the people.
What about CONAPRO?
CONAPRO, I would believe that they were all, at the initial stage, we all believed that they were going to invest, and that was going to help, the situation in terms of providing the fuel and, all those things at a cheaper price.
How much did the Greeks bring in terms of money or any equity contribution?
I think they contributed.
How much?
I cannot recall how much.
You can ascertain that?
Huh?
You can ascertain how much they contribute?
With the records that are available, I cannot ascertain, but, because I wasn't, at some point, I wasn't really into, that, like I said.
I'm giving you time to validate. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You can go and find out how much they brought in. So you believe they were more genuine than the Qatari investors?
The Greek,
even
yes.
though both investments led to enormous loss?
I believe that they were more genuine.
So in the
because
exercise...
they had vested interest in that.
Okay. In the exercise of presidential duties, do you find it okay to be referred to investors who you deal with and you have no room to negotiate with them? Was it not a conflict of interest for the president to place investors in front of you and tell you to negotiate with the full knowledge that you're going to be lambasted if you didn't agree? Were you okay to serve under those conditions?
Well, let me say that I never wanted to be SG. When I was, being offered that position, I asked to remain as a secretary to the cabinet. And there I believe I was going to serve more, than, at that level. When you get to that level, it's your exit door. It's the next thing, you are going out. And how are you going to go out? That is what. So I never wanted to be SG. And that is why whenever he moves me to a ministry, I thank God, I pray that let him leave me there to stay and work, for my people. Because when you come in as SG, you have his own issue to deal with, and you have the issue of dealing with the civil service and the rest of the Gambian people. It has been very difficult. So he would tell you that you have no choice but to accept this. As I said, you can leave things, pack up and go. But if you believe that while staying, you can positively add something to the development of the country, yes, you would take the risk and then stay. Because you believe in that there's a small portion or there's something that you can do in terms of, trying to convince him on certain things positive or trying to tell him that this is not, how it is supposed to be and see if you would succeed or not. But you had no choice and you had to serve. And when you are serving, you try to serve in the best interest of the people and what was available at that time, the circumstances and everything that was prevailing. So it is not a pleasure to be there. I never wanted to be there, and God knows that. But I was there to serve in the best interest of the people. And I trust God that He can be my witness to the sincerity that I had in serving my country in that capacity. But it was a very difficult task, the most difficult task that one can work in or one can find himself or herself, in that kind of environment. But we try to do our best. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you not. And at the end of the day, we all know that it was Yahya Jammeh. Whatever he wants to do, and he has said it time and time, this is my country. I will do whatever I like, I do whatever I want, and nobody can say anything about it, can do anything or say anything about it. We have all seen him. All Gambians, we have seen what was happening and what was going on. Did anybody come out and then protested or said this is not right or this is not supposed to happen? Nobody did. We all saw. So we all empowered him. We are all part of it because we all saw something that was not right and nobody came out and said that wasn't right. So we that were there, that risked everything, spent a lot of time, a lot of stresses, working long hours 11 o'clock, 12, midnight, going home. You wouldn't see your kids. You wouldn't see your families. You wouldn't see anything. You had no life. We were doing that. We went through all that. And who can say that he went, what I went through, he went through that? Because of the advices that I made to him. It cost me to go to Mile 2. Just for advising him on this tax thing. So we were not there just there as that. We were doing other things. We were trying our best to make sure that things work in this country. But it was very difficult. We had somebody who only knew, yes, do what I say. If not, you will be in trouble. You get into trouble, nobody comes to help you.
Thank you.
Gambians just sit down and watch you suffer and your family.
Thank you, Mr.
So they need to appreciate what we went through under very difficult circumstances.
We appreciate that, but it wasn't just risk. Mr. Ba,
yes, sir.
Were there any rewards associated with serving ex-President Jammeh? You are under oath.
My reward of serving him was at Mile 2, and I did nothing to deserve that.
Was that the only reward?
Sorry?
Was that the only reward?
The only other reward was my satisfaction in serving my country under those difficult circumstances, spending a lot of time and energy, just to make sure that things work for this country. That is the satisfaction that I had, that I was able to bring some differences, make some changes, to some people's faces and their lives.
Mr. Ba, were there any financial rewards over and above your salary and benefits?
Financial rewards? No, sir.
Thank you. Would you describe President Jammeh as a man who acted in a manner becoming of a president?
We all know. It's just a matter of who says it. But we all know.
Would you describe him as a man who acted in a manner becoming of a president? Yes or no?
In many ways, no.
Thank you.
I have other issues that if we have time, we can
do. No time. No. It's time we have to rise.
All right.
So we rise, we'll be back at 2:30.